Good evening. Welcome to Homeschool Hub and Jill Wolf as I am talking tonight about using play to improve writing. I come to you outside tonight. It's a nice evening. Got a little nature sounds for you to enjoy. The truth is that the lights in my video area blew bulbs and I don't know where the replacements are. So I'm using natural light tonight. Anyway, I'm so excited to come to you tonight. Episode 17 is so exciting. Using play to improve writing with a focus on musicals. I spent a lot of time doing musicals in my growing up, and I loved them. I liked the singing part, the dancing part, the acting part, the performance, the stage, building sets. I had such a blast with it. And so not only performing them, but going to see them and watching them and taking them in. For me, it was a very rich experience. And so if your child is enjoying musicals, whether they're 4 years old and they like the Disney movies, which are essentially musicals, because half of those get done on stage, or if it's a very sophisticated one like Les Miserables, and they've seen it on stage, or they've even seen the movie, the film version of it. Musicals bring a unique experience. And so when I think about, I didn't introduce myself. For those that don't know me or don't know me well, I'm Jill Wolf, learning specialist. I help homeschool moms to overcome some of the blues of homeschool planning and some of the frustrations with how to make it a rich experience. And I help you plan meaningful opportunities and experiences with your children to awaken the learn in learning. And so tonight we're focusing the learning on writing. This whole series has been on writing and musicals. So with that, let me jump in. I'm not going to have my normal chart paper up here, so you're going to have to take your own notes. But musicals, so I have 5 categories. I always have categories for you. These 5 are story, music, analysis, comparative, and research, okay? Since I can't draw them up there. So we'll start with story. Every character in a musical has a backstory, right? Because every person has a backstory. They have something that's happened before they get to this place. And so if your child is enjoying either performing in a musical or watching them, then what's your favorite character? And let's write out the backstory. What do you think happened to them that brought them to this place? And it may or may not be accurate, but who cares? It's a chance for them to be creative. How did this character get to where they are at the beginning of the movie? The musical? What was it that happened to them that brought them here? That's backstory. You could write another scene. Maybe you look and you think, I really like this character. Did you do anything with it? Or that was a big jump. Or I would just like to have seen a scene like this. Then write it, right? You get to introduce the text form of script and what that looks like. And although it varies from musical. Hi, Karen. Although it varies depending on if it's a TV, a film, a drama, or a stage kind of script. At this stage, they're young enough. You can find one online, model it after that. You essentially have dialogue and screen direction. What are they to be doing and what are they saying? And let them write a scene that they would add to the musical they think would add some value in some way. Have them pick a small character and write a whole show about them. It doesn't have to be a huge show. It can be a short show. But that's where Wicked came from. If you're familiar at all with Wicked, it was born out of The Wizard of Oz. And that green witch and what was her backstory. And someone took that and ran with it, and now you have Wicked. So it's not uncommon to take a character from one show or musical and give them a whole story in their own center stage. So try that. Have them, for whichever musical they're working with right now or enjoying, pick one of the smaller characters or maybe the villain or whomever, and let's write a whole story about them. Another one, let's see, rewrite a scene, especially if you didn't like it. We do that a lot in movies, and you can do that with stage as well. Journal from the characters. And I know I bring this one out a lot, but it does add a different perspective. It's from the perspective of the character. It's not the viewer, it's not the family, it's not the overall experience and story. It's from the the writing itself is from the character. And so have them do a journal entry about a character doing something. It could even be from the musical itself. So trying to think of other ones that you might be familiar with. I'm thinking most of the ones that come to mind are older ones. So you certainly, if you have younger children, they may not be into the musicals that, like Mamma Mia, Rent, Wizard of Oz, those kinds of things. But they may be into musicals that are from their Disney movies or from movies, like Beauty and the Beast, great onstage. What's the lion one? Not Circle of Life. Lion King. They did that one. So you could pick any of those characters. Essentially, even any film that has music sung in it is a musical. It's just on the screen versus the stage. And so have them pick one of those characters and write a journal entry. Okay. I'm going to go to music. Have them write another song. Between whomever, or maybe it's one of the characters that's working through something. In the movie Grease, there's a whole song with Olivia Newton-John. She's the actress. I can't even remember the gal's name, the actress's name. Anyway, I know the actress, I don't know the character. Anyway, she is trying to figure out whether she's going to go on this date. And so she goes in the backyard and she's on the swings and she sings this whole song. It's her kind of processing and making a decision. So maybe it can be that small. It can be a big number. But have them actually write a song, write the lyrics. If they enjoy music, let them play around and see if they come up with a melody. It's kind of fun to do that. Re-choreograph. If they like to dance and move over music, over writing music and lyrics, if they would rather dance and move, then have them re-choreograph something that you saw on the screen or the stage, and have them write out the steps, the dance steps. What would you do? So if this is the song, what would you have them do during it? Choreographers do a lot of writing because they're writing down the steps they're going to do during musical or dance sequences, etc. So if they like dance and movement, great place to add some writing. You could pick a group of songs. Now, this isn't related to a specific one that you would be watching or enjoying right away, but the musical Mamma Mia came out of someone saying, we like the songs from ABBA, a group from the 70s, I believe, and so we want to write a musical that links all of those songs. So they wrote Mamma Mia, and they made the story and the songs work. They didn't write the songs to go with the story. They started with the songs and then the story. So that's actually true of Singing in the Rain. I heard a commentary on the people who wrote that musical, and they said, yeah, we were handed like 6 songs and said, make a musical out of it. And so they wrote the story from the songs. So if they like that, have them pick a group of songs, or 3 or 4 songs they like, or maybe you start with one. And you take the song and write a story that encompasses using this as a number in your story. Okay, so that's using music. Now, let me add here, about 10 years ago now, I love musicals, and about 10 years ago, I thought, I'm going to write one. Right? Okay. And I was really inspired by the movie Aragon, about the young man and the dragon rider. As he rode dragons and was this chosen one, blah, blah, blah. And the whole thing about dragons, and I like that. So I'm like, I'm going to write a story that kind of goes along with those. And I want it to be a musical, so I'm going to write the music. So I started with the lyrics, and then I actually, on my computer, in Guitar Band, GarageBand, which comes on every Apple, I actually laid down tracks and used all the music tracks in there to actually write out the songs. And then I brought in friends of mine to record them singing. Like, I went all out. I actually got a chance to produce it at a camp that my sister and I started over in France. So we took a team over there, and we did this whole musical. It was so much fun. And now, I know that sounds absolutely crazy. You just wrote a musical. But if your child really enjoys them, let them try to write a musical. Let them start. And it starts with a story and a song or two. and let them write them together. So while I've separated the kind of writing you can do story and music separately, have them bring those together and write a mini musical. Maybe it's a 10-minute thing, especially those who like to do little live shows for parents. I know a lot of you have your little ones who are like, I'm going to do a show on Friday night for you, or little siblings and I have been putting this together, and we're going to do a little drama for you. So they like performing, they like drama, they like the maybe it's choreography and dance or music or all of it together. Have them write one. I know that sounds huge. It doesn't have to be. It can be really exciting. And they can learn even some tech with it, because they could actually record it in GarageBand and put it together. What an accomplishment. But anyway, it was a very, very rich experience for me. And so I pass along that if your kids are interested in that, give them a chance to write a little one. Okay, research. Well, I always think that if you really enjoy a story, I do have cars going in the background, so I hope that's not louder than me. But sorry for the background noise. Anyway, if you do enjoy a story that's being told, whether it's on the stage, with music, on the screen, I think there's always some value in doing some research into the specific things you liked about it. So is it that you liked a particular character in the story, or that type of character? Is it that you liked you're curious about the setting and the culture? I have to say that until I saw Jane Eyre being performed, I never really got it. And not Jane Eyre, Jane Austen's books, sorry. And it came to life to me, the culture of that time. And now the movie or the musical Les Miserables, huge in the culture of the French Revolution. And so if they're intrigued by musicals, or they like that one, or they like the music, that has very, very rich music, great story, a little older in terms of content, but the French Revolution was huge in terms of history for that country, and even for how, I believe it was about the time, now don't quote me, my history in terms of dates here might not be so on, but I believe it was a similar time to the American Revolution, that we were trying to gain some independence here from England, but France had the revolution internally, and it was trying to break down the classes. But in terms of history and culture and all sorts of things, some musicals have a very rich space for you to go do some research on and learn about. You can have them research how the musical came to be. So like I just watched Singing in the Rain recently and watched it with the commentary, and it explained where the whole show came from, and why these particular songs, why these actors, why this storyline. It came out, I believe, in the 50s. And now I'm not going to say anymore because I don't want to go saying it wrong. But there, some musicals and things, depending on when they're written, have the influence of global events and political events and things going on, around the 40s, World War II, and the Holocaust and different things. And so depending on when these were written, I know Rent was written in the 80s, 90s, and there was some very interesting things going on in pop culture in America when that movie was written. So how it came to be and its influences, definitely an older child topic, but definitely something you can research. What was the inspiration for that story? And that's different than the culture and the setting of the story. So just know that. Those are two different things that they could research and look into. And especially if they're interested in writing their own, then they want to you're picking a time period, a location, characters that you're wanting to, some story you want to tell there, and adding music to it. So you need to do a little research on that time and place, so that you can add that to your musical. All right, some comparisons, comparative writing. I always come back to, I think comparative writing is very, very important. I'm doing a series right now with some young girls with comparative writing, and initially And so for those of you with young ones, when you first see comparative writing, they typically look like two summaries. I summarize A and I summarize B. And I just put them on top of each other on the page. That's the beginning of comparative writing. So if your children are young, you're comparing two characters, you're comparing two songs, you're comparing two worlds. Maybe you're comparing two princesses. A lot of the Disney movies are musicals. So maybe you're comparing Belle and Moana, that both have musical components to them. And initially, it's pretty surface level. The older they get, the deeper you're wanting them to dive into what's underneath. What are the deeper sides? Some things we have to infer, or things that are not directly said. Where do we find out about those things, and then how do we compare them? And comparative writing moves from looking like two summaries to an integrated piece that contrasts, like this about this person and this about this one, and how they're different, and why that's significant, and its impact on the story, etc. Much deeper than just summarizing Belle and summarizing Moana. But just know that that's with time. But beginning to have them start to think about comparing similarities and differences is important. So they could compare worlds, they compare music. With music, they can compare, here's an interesting thing. In musicals, the songs have a purpose. Not only are they entertaining and fun, but they should move the story along, which is different because, music just out for music's sake does not move a story along. It might tell its own story, but it's its own standalone piece. But in a musical, every song has a part to play in the whole story being told. So maybe you dig into that and you look at, I want you to compare the purpose of this song and this song. Now, let me jump then up to analysis. Say maybe step one then is, what is the purpose of this song? Why is it in here? What does it help your audience understand? How is it fun? And does it lighten? Is it a song that sounds like a dirge and is really heavy and dark? Is it interactive? Is it somebody processing their own things? So what was the purpose of that song? And then the comparative writing is, I'm going to now compare these two, the purpose of this one, the purpose of this one. You can even compare lyrics. Some songs, when you look at the lyrics, they all rhyme, and some don't. Some use a lot of metaphors, and some are really raw and honest. So they could take a look at the lyrics of the songs in there and do some analysis, or even do some comparison. Let's see what else I have on my notes here. Okay. Typically, musicals have very ornate costumes and sets, especially if you're seeing them live on stage, but certainly if they do them on film, because they have an elaborate setting and not restricted to the stage. So in both places, musicals typically have very elaborate costuming and staging. And so that's something that you could do some analysis with, some comparison with, even some research into, like how do you think they built that set? Or how do you think they got this to do that? If you're seeing it on stage. If you're seeing it in a film, you can just compare. Maybe in the 90s, late 80s, 90s, Phantom of the Opera was huge. And then they made the movie, I think, towards the end of the 90s. And so it was very interesting to compare Phantom of the Opera on the stage and Phantom of the Opera in the film, the screen version, because you have so much more freedom with the screen than you do on stage. But what was the feel? What was the tone? How was I drawn into it? How are the sets different? How are, now, interestingly enough, the music isn't. The music is almost identical. And the, obviously all of the lines in the story, dialogue, all of that's exactly the same. So all you're really dealing with is the feeling of it being live for you right here, which has limitations, or watching it on the screen. But you could do a comparison with those. Okay, my light's dying. So my natural light is dying. So I'm going to go ahead and a little early tonight. so that you're not forced to just watch my silhouette. Anyway, I think musicals in general, in some ways you can treat similar to some of the ones I've done before, talking about movies or stories. But they do have this added component of the stage and of music and the purpose and feeling and tone and what they bring to the experience that's quite a bit different. And so have a lot of fun with it. I made a list of some in case the ones that came up. Obviously, Wicked is a reasonably new one. Mamma Mia, Cats, Phantom of the Opera, Oklahoma, Rent, Les Miserables. Once Upon a Mattress was the one that I did when I was in high school about the Princess and the Pea and her whole story. And I know there's tons more. You know, Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, I think it's called, or okay, doggies. My dogs are getting a little restless out here. So between dogs and light, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. But please let me know if you try any of these. If you come across a musical that you think has a really rich writing potential, please post it and tell us about it, especially if it's not one that I mentioned. I look forward to hearing how this works for all of you. And have a great evening.